Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Penny Dreadful. So, I think I have to immediately compare this show to League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the movie of which that came out a number of years ago, because really, we not only have a number of characters that are to be reused in this show, but then on top of that, like, there are basically just a ton of equivalents of characters that I would quickly compare to League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It's almost the exact same kind of characters. It's ridiculous. Like, man, whoever just kind of went out and just put this out there, like, bravo. Because, man, they just, like, squeaked this past everybody, who I guess never went on and saw League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, because it's basically the same thing. So, with that said, within episode 2, we already get Dorian Gray, who a lot of people know from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen as this immortal guy who has a bunch of paintings. There even is a Dorian Gray individual film that is to go on and be much more adult, let's just say, to the moments of Dorian going on and having passionate moments with a number of women within one singular film. Speaking of passionate moments, there seems to already within 2 episodes be 2 scenes of that. And I was like, okay, so like we're going into like being able to show more gore, being able to show more adult content. So I thought that was interesting to kind of see how that was to play out through this show. Sir Malcolm Murray, who is Timothy Dalton, who a lot of people probably know either from James Bond movies, where he did a few of those, or, of course, comparing him or saying that he also is in the HBO Max show Doom Patrol, which honestly the first season was really good, the second season, and I was interested in the third season, but not enough to justify completely watching it. So, Sir Malcolm Murray, his character is, to me, feel like the Sean Connery Quartermain character, where he's already gone on and mentioned about a safari or a lion hunt that he has gone on to, and like, oh, that's your Quartermain right there. That's basically Quartermain. And so we have Mina Harker, who is on this show, and I'm like, okay, so that character is to somehow or another be tied to Dracula, or Dracula, for those of you that speak English. And we have Victor Frankenstein in the show, who I guess, since we don't really have a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing going on here, instead we're going to go on and have a Victor Frankenstein. So that's going to be our equivalent, I guess. Josh Hartnett's character, Ethan Chandler, is to basically be a Tom Sawyer kind of person, where he's good with a gun, but really, like, they kind of vaguely give us in the first episode some back history about this character, and then they kind of forget about him, because there's other things going on. There's other people they need to get to and tell you who they are. So I'm like, okay, here. So, from the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, we don't have an Invisible Man on this show, but at some point that'll probably happen. We don't have a Captain Nemo yet, but maybe we'll get there. So I think those are the only 2 that we've gone on and not put together here. But we have Vanessa Ives, who is to be this fortune teller-like character, and in the second episode is to give us this horrific, like, channeling of characters, which I'm not 100% sure what all that was exactly tied to, as far as understanding who people are. So, with that said, I wouldn't call this show a bad show, but I don't really also like how slow it is. I would have to go on and say that this movie is okay at the end of the day. Um, I would recommend it if eventually you had an equivalent to see the show, because I think right now it's on like Apple TV and Showtime. But I would go on and have certain apps that are bootleggishly being able to have me have the opportunity to see whatever I'd like through most of the time, or I'd have to go on and find an app that eventually will get me there. So I will rattle off some bootlegish like apps for you to hopefully be able to say you could see whatever you like. So with that said, first off, there is a Google search that I would possibly have any number of you people do. To at first, you can go on and find C Movies app, letter C. So hopefully you can go onto a Google search, find this app, and find out that it is to change its name to Yes Movies through a download of it. And then you can go ahead and download Yes Movies. A lot of times you'll probably go on to a Google Play Store and find an equivalent of these apps, be able to download them. Like I think Yes Movies does have an equivalent on the Google Play Store. Or currently, because I double checked this, TV Crush does have a app called 123 Movies that is also available on a Google Play Store. And so TV Crush is another app that you can use that if you go through a Google search will tell you that the name and the title of that app will have changed to HD Movies 123 Movies. And then thirdly, Fox HD Movies. Fox HD Movies is to be the logo, but the title of the app is to be something different. Again, I would recommend going through a Google Play Store or Google search to find Fox HD Movies, because you won't probably be able to find it through a Google Play Store. So, Fox HD Movies, the title of that will actually be Play 1080p HD Movies. So there's all of that for you. So this show is just okay. At the end of the day, I'm kind of waiting for this show to actually pick up. If this is just the slow slogging way that this thing just plops out, I'm just like, man, this, like, I tried to watch this yesterday before I was to, like, try to go to bed, and I'm like, this is not quick enough for me. Come on, show. I need... you gotta help me here. Like, I'm dozing and you're slogging. Come on. So, with that said, let's just go on to that double 5 time territory. Let's hopefully get into all of these spoilers via these first 2 episodes. I'm going to try to do my best to do it in the order of which that all the stuff happens. But also, there's just a number of things that happen in this episode, and more things in my brain will be more important than others. So with that said, let me know in the comments below if there's something that I forgot about, because I love comments. It's great. It helps out the channel. So, let's get into spoiler time. Spoiler time, it's about the time to spoil these episodes. So, episode 1, we go on here to, of course, have Ethan, who is to be a actor, a performer who goes to town to town to town to sleep with a woman in possibly every one of those towns, and is to come up with the right words to wham bam and thank you ma'am that person and go off to the next town. Some points and sometimes, I guess, Ethan's character will at some point sleep with other men's women, and that leads to him having a fight with those men, to the point of Ethan getting injured within some past fight, to where I guess his hand is to shake at some time. So, Ethan, we find, is to be portraying a character called General Custard, who has long since been dead within a battle that no one had survived. So, General Custard, or Ethan, is to really just do this gun tricked act where he is to see a number of items and start firing away, firing at this bell, blowing off this girl's like hat or whatever it goofily was, and breaking a number of clay pots and so on and so forth. So after this whole dog and pony show is over, we have Ethan who finds some woman possibly in the stands to go after her and basically take her off to the side of the road and make love to where we are just to see some thrusting upon this location of this of these storage things. Anyways, so we have this woman that is asked if Ethan will come back to see her or that they should go on and run off together, and Ethan's like, oh no, like I have to go to another town and so on and so forth, because he knows the words to talk to everyone, because he's probably recited these things hundreds of times over. So Ethan then makes his way to this bar to talk to Vanessa Ives, who we find out is this fortune teller of sorts, and is to have this ability, it seems, through especially the second episode. But so Vanessa Ives is to want to get Ethan's attention, to sit him down and tell him, yeah, you're not General Custer because he was dead years ago. And so, like, you would have been like a baby by the time that he would have gone off to that battle. There's no way. You're not old enough. So Ethan is to tell this woman, it's like, well, like, it's all pretend, it's all make-believe, it's all a show. So Vanessa is to sit down and tell Ethan who he really is. To have Vanessa mention that at some point this character was rich but now isn't, and that he had gotten injured in a fight and now his hand shakes, but he doesn't want anybody to see it, and he hides his drink consistently so no one will notice. And that Vanessa is hoping that Ethan will go on and be her hired gun. And Ethan is asking Vanessa, it's like, well, do I have to kill anybody? And Vanessa's like, well, does it matter? And so Ethan is intrigued by this girl who is to basically dissect him right then and there and have him go like, yeah, this girl knows me. Like, this girl knows who I am. So Ethan then goes on to find out where Vanessa and Sir Malcolm Murray are heading into, and he goes along with them. And so what happens next here is we have Sir Malcolm Murray, who makes his way into possibly a vampire den, or for those of you that don't know what that means, a location that is to have a number of vampires within it. And the goofy thing of it is I didn't really understand how Ethan could have gone on and shoot any number of these vampires. It doesn't really make sense. But when really looking at it, like, I guess vampires are possibly made different for being shot, I guess. So Ethan goes on to realize that Sir Malcolm Murray is talking to this other vampire, and it seems that this just leads them. Uh, oh, Murray. Sir Malcolm is talking to a lead familiar, and that leads to a number of vampires going on and attacking all three of these people. And so Ethan goes and is, yeah, I bit my tongue. Is to go on and shoot these characters and kill them. And so we have Sir Malcolm go on and find a vampire that is to be much older, but is to also be dead, like a corpse. So Sir Malcolm brings this corpse in to a mortician, or a guy who opens up dead bodies. So that would really just be like a coroner. And this guy immediately is interested about this body, and he immediately goes on and opens it up, and is to realize that this body is to somehow have a exoskeleton, bizarrely, and inside the exoskeleton is to have these Egyptian hieroglyphs that we go on to find out all of these hieroglyphs are tied to the Book of the Dead of Anubis. And we know that because both Vanessa and Sir Malcolm go on to meet with a guy named Ferdinand Lyle, and he ends up telling both Sir Malcolm and Vanessa that these have to be Egyptian things from the Book of the Dead. And that would make a lot of sense. So, but we also have Ferdinand that is to tell Sir Malcolm that he wants to go and meet up with them again, and to also have his book being signed, and because Sir Malcolm had done a book, and Ferdinand wanted his book to be signed with something personal. So Vanessa is to meet up with Ethan again, and is to want him to continue to work with them as their hired gun. And Vanessa realizes that Ethan is interested, because it seems that what they're doing here is to be way more unique than anything else. And Vanessa realizes that Ethan is interested, but probably also scared. And so, because it seems that Ethan is taking a long time to decide whether or not he wants to be attached to these people, as it seems he is to make his way to this house, see that Vanessa is opening her window, or opening up her curtain, and Ethan walks away consistently. So Sir Malcolm is to go on and send off for this coroner to be wearing these finer clothes. And so this coroner is to go on and put these on, and come to find out this coroner is actually Dr. Victor Frankenstein. We don't find that out right away, but we find that out by the end of episode 1. So Sir Malcolm is to immediately ask Victor to join him in his endeavors. And Victor is to immediately be like, well, like, I don't want to just join some supernatural cult. And Sir Malcolm is like, well, I have no plan on starting one. Like, this guy just wants Victor because Victor was to have easily opened up this man, saw something unusual, and wanted to figure it out. And no other coroner would be that quick to do that with something he has never seen before. And so Sir Malcolm took a real interest in Victor because it seems that this guy wants to solve something. He wants to understand something new, where a lot of other people would just be doing this as a job. Or some coroners, probably around that time period, are to hate what they do and consistently vomit while doing it. Because I had seen this movie recently called From Hell, and that is to really be tied to this time period of this show. Basically, the time period of this show is to be right around Jack the Ripper. I think that's like 1939, I think. No. I'm not sure about that. Uh, it doesn't really, I don't think it set a time period within the show. But yeah, it's right around the Jack the Ripper time period. They even go on to assess or assume that there may be a copycat killer going on, or there might be Jack the Ripper who has come back in town and is starting to kill people. And I was like, okay, that kind of can help me like really know how this world is going to break down, because I've already seen recently a Jack the Ripper kind of film. So like it'll be a pretty easy breakdown of understanding of like what kind of world this is, like who kind of people that these are. So Sir Malcolm is to, at a point, possibly have a person that he can come to. And so come to find out, Victor has gone on and has already done a Frankenstein's monster experiment. And so we turn around and now have Victor, who is to now do it yet again, to put together a man called Proteus. Because, of course, we have Victor, who is to thumb through a William Shakespeare book and find the name of Proteus to decide to name his creature, or his monster. And so come to find out in this second episode, we'll find out that Proteus is to start to remember certain words, remember certain things, and things are starting to be coming back to him at some point. And so, with that said, in a very roundabout way, that's a very quick approach of what all happens in this episode. But that's really easily what goes on through episode 1. Let me know in the comments below if there's something that I forgot about. I'm sure there probably is. So, episode 2. In episode 2, we are to have Ethan Chandler go on and meet with a girl in a bar called Bronna Croft. Bronna Croft, it seems, is to have this odd coughing episode, and at some point when Croft is to have this coughing episode, she is to be with a client because she is to go on and sell her body, it seems. So Croft is to go on and sell her body to Dorian Gray, who we see in this episode, and he introduces himself as Dorian Gray. So I'm like, okay, here's the painting guy. His weakness is his own painting. It's great. Check out the Dorian Gray film if I haven't already said that, because like in the Dorian Gray movie, that film gets like very much like adult within that film. Just consistent, like him having like him not only like sleeping with the daughter, but then he goes after the mother in the same night, it seems. Because this guy knows his way around a woman, if you know what I mean. So Dorian Gray is to be around Croft, and so she starts coughing up blood, and so then Dorian is to mention, it's like, well, are you getting that coughing from your consumption from before? And Croft is to say yes, to be honest. So Dorian at some point is to less and less have this girl be with him. I see less and less because she's wearing less and less clothing. And then he goes on to have a moment with her that leads to her coughing all over him and splashing blood all over his face. And that just makes him go on and be with this girl even harder so. So we have, oddly, the entire time a guy taking these characters' photos, and I'm like, okay, that is just like, we just have a guy that definitely is into to doing pictures and portraits and whatever. So technically that does make a lot of sense for that character, but still. So Dorian also is to meet up with Vanessa Ives as they are going on later to put off this seance. So Sir Malcolm Murray, or Murray, and Vanessa Ives are both going to Finnegan's, or Ferdinand's seance. And so when they are going there in this episode, it seems that Ferdinand is to have his woman who is to be this fortune teller of sorts that is to channel some dark spirit, but then all of a sudden is to turn around and see that Vanessa is to have the same similar power, and that she can go on and channel something also. And so Vanessa goes on and takes over of this seance and is to look at Sir Malcolm and is to start spouting out all of this nonsense and all of this dad stuff, and then is to get up on the table after she is to break it, it seems, like break the glass part of it, like the top part of it, and then gets on the table and then starts rotating her body, her top half, backwards as she is going on and freaking people out. So Ferdinand is to tell Vanessa, Sir Malcolm, it's like, well, hey, like, what a really interesting night, but like, my wife kind of freaked out, but luckily she had some gin on her, so like, I think like things have been or smoothed over, even though some people had been freaked out. Sir Malcolm was to also go to this investigator who is investigating this murder case. I think this is Grandworthy. I think it was Inspector Grandworthy, who we have Sir Malcolm going on and telling this investigator that, hey, if this guy knows any information about what had happened with this, like, let Father Malcolm know, because this guy will not stop. Whoever it is will just continue going on and killing people, as like this being like another kind of Jack the Ripper kind of character. We also had a scene in the first episode where a number of inspectors go on to take pictures of this crime scene, and one of the inspectors calls the whole place this battlefield, that there are so many dead bodies and there's so many uh, chopped up people inside this area, and it's so gruesome. There's blood everywhere, on the ceiling, on the walls, everywhere, that it's like a massive battlefield had happened here. Uh, Tying us into the familiar slash vampire den. So that way, uh, we would know that Sir Malcolm went on to dispatch every one of these vampires and take them all out. So that way they won't re-arise and relive and whatever. So it's a good thing that I almost forgot about that, so I could cover it now. So now, in episode 2, we have Proteus and we have Victor, and so if Victor isn't to go on and showcase to Proteus how to consume food down his throat, because he has to show, like, go down the throat. We then have Victor, who is to realize that Proteus is now humming this song to himself, and so Victor is to show him this book, and he's like, do you know what this image is? And he says it's a boat. And he's like, what is this animal? And he's like, a whale. He's like, aha, like you must have been like a whaler or fisherman in your past life. And Proteus is like, ah. So Victor is to then take Proteus and take him outside and show him the world. And so both Victor and Proteus are going out, and Victor is trying to put a hat upon Proteus's head because he still has a ton of scars all over his body. So Victor is showing him on the sights, having him like kind of have fun with kids, go and meet a number of people, and so even having Proteus having like a kind of look at a woman, and Victor's like, oh no 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 no. So Victor then takes Proteus out to this boat, and we start to have Proteus starting to like just come up with these words, like a boat, and then he mentions his wife, and Proteus is like, well, did I have a wife? And then he ends up saying her name, and so Proteus is to ask Victor like who he is, like what did he do to Victor to have him be here now, to have him not know who he really is, but know certain fragments of certain things. And Victor does not go on and explain the process. So, as Victor and Proteus are to make their way home, we have them two together, and all of a sudden, we have a person come from behind Proteus and really just put his fist through this guy's entire body, and come to find out that this character is to be called the Creature, and we have to assume that this character is possibly the very first attempt at a Frankenstein's monster. The very first original monster character, because this guy is to go on and say that he is to be that. He is to be the first run, the first attempt. to me, like, this would seem easily similar to, like, the movie I, Frankenstein, where Adam, or I believe it's Adam, in that movie, at some point goes on to be created by Victor, and then Adam goes on to kill Victor Frankenstein's wife, and then Victor Frankenstein chases after his creation to want to kill him out of vengeance, and Adam goes to the coldest climate to have Victor not be able to go on and follow him, and then Victor dies, and Adam goes on and buries his creator. And like that's like the kind of the beginning of the I, Frankenstein movie. I, Frankenstein is a decent film. Like, the ending of the film is but like I think the movie is pretty decent. It has some interesting things in it. It's also based off of a comic book, so that's cool. As well as a number of other bajillion other things that at some point just went into being a film for some reason because they had nothing better to do that day. So really the focus is on here that like we kind of forget about Ethan, even though Ethan has had some time with Croft here, and Ethan is to even bump into Proteus and Victor and shake hands with them, as Ethan is to be with Croft and they are to introduce one another. But yeah, so I think that for the most point is to what is to all be broken down within these first two episodes. That was actually really quick. Let me know in the comments below any number of things. If you liked this show, if you hated this show, if you went on to watch the whole first season in one fell swoop, whatever, because you're really fascinated by this show, who knows? Maybe I'll go on and find a cluster of characters that I'm going to go on and be like, oh yeah, like I like this show more now because there's so much more going on. But yeah, I don't know. It'll all depend on how well this goes or how well this doesn't go. Then I'll be like, okay, well, that was a good thing to just kind of do for a thing of content for today. So with that way to say it, I think it's about that time to just go on and get out of here. I apologize if at any point I repeated myself or whatever. That just tends to happen on certain reviews. But with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.